Oh, hello, everyone. We're live. Thought I would jump the gun by about 20 seconds so I don't get too predictable. Let me see here. Over to YouTube side. So I don't forget. Who all's in the house? Looks like Lars was first and worst. The one-eyed cat, Don English, is here. Jack stands in cinder blocks. Got a question about watch hours in the lives. I thought this was interesting. I'm one of the longest time streamers in the community. When I first started, it was Uncle Tony's Garage, me, and Dust Devil Brian. And now there's all kinds of people streaming, but I've watched some of these things. He says YouTube analytics don't match up. They never match up. What you'll notice is if you go to your studio and you look at your last 48 hours, you'll see how many actually watched it. And then if you go to the video analytics in the studio, that number takes 3 days to get there. I mean, it takes that long. I don't know what it does, but it takes that long. And you can get a different number still if you go to the public side of YouTube and look at how many views it says underneath the video. So those numbers aren't synced up at all. Just an FYI. Uncle Sonny is 86 today. He's the guy that built Don's Valiant. Well, cool. Happy birthday, Uncle Sonny. Wendy English, Auto Salvage Outlaws. Kim fixes things. Max Wedge, Dick Dastardly, Rich Rusnick. How's it going? Auto Salvage didn't like the car wash sign. I'll tell you. So that's the car wash on Cumberland Road in Bluefield, where I'm from. And that place has been there a long time. And they had a sign before that said the same thing, but it had more typos. So yes, you cannot change your engine oil or do mechanical repairs in the wash bays. That's a very Bluefield thing. Kim says he is out on his tractor, assuming you mean Buff. But when he comes into the chat during the stream, it would be great if anyone could mention him starting in the race to 500. Kim, I need to get a reply from you. Let me know what the situation is there with the channel. Just let me know. And Kim says, ask to leave. That's funny. I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, ask to leave. That sign actually used to say ask to leave, not asked. It said ask to leave. And then it says, or ask to leave. So in other words, also I can change my engine oil and put a clutch in, or I could be asked to leave. I could do either one. Signs always crack me up. But I stopped at the business next door yesterday. So I'm going to get a picture of that. And then I didn't even think about using it on the live tonight. Oh, I see NSB Custom Cars is in the house. Thanks for stopping by. It's always good to see Lee and Ordine. Most of the old parts and Russ Patrick. My mom is watching. Mom likes to watch. Her sister, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes. But Mom's almost always here. Let's see. JB, glad you're here. JB, what's the latest on your $700 Ford transmission resolution there? Kind of been hearing a little bit about what you're trying to do there. I just wasn't sure. This is funny. So MM78 is here, and most of the old parts and Russ says, hi, MM1977. No, that will be me. Slightly older than Jeremiah. Pure Pontiac Garage and Dan E. Boyd. Buff's Garage. I saw Buff in here earlier. Glad you could stop by, man. Buff is helpful. So I had somebody ask me, it was actually his unfinished project. He saw a Pontiac engine. He didn't have many photos, but it was kind of something for an auction. He said, can you tell what this is? I'm like, no, but I know the people who can. So I asked Buff and a few of the guys in the Pontiac community. They were very helpful. This community is great. There's always somebody in here that has a specialty and knows something about something. Dean Stevenson is here. How's it going? A Cove. Mater's Workshop. How's it going? Rescued and Restored Garage. Outfits Garage. Outfits Garage. I saw him had a little video bringing up some oil pressure in the short today. That's always exciting. Running the drill and getting oil pressure means it's about to go down in the outfit shop. Who all is here? Junkyard D. Keep waiting for Junkyard D. He's about to send it. The No Name 500 race is going to start getting hot. Usually this time of the season, 76 days to go, that's when it starts turning up. And we see guys making their moves. And, you know, last year, if you'd have asked me at the beginning of the year, okay, place bets on who's going to make it and who's not, I was wrong all over the place. All of us were. But this is it starts getting really exciting in the No Name 500 this time of year, because everybody can still make it. There's no question about that. It's just we just start to see it break loose. It's good. It's fun. Mohawk 62 is here. Asked to leave the car wash. Yes, that's correct. It took me a second to remember. I'm so used to that sign. So that sign is next to one of the oldest Dairy Queens on earth. I know it's a weird. There's lots of weird little trivia things in Bluefield. But they have a Dairy Queen that's been continuously operated by the original franchisee since 1958. And the neat thing about it is, because Dairy Queen to me is normally like the most no-count food on earth, with one exception. This place, but being the original franchisee, and he must, gosh, I don't know how old that guy is. He's got to be 90-ish. But he's grandfathered into all the stuff nobody else can serve. So they have all kinds of different homemade stuff on their menus that other franchisees can't do. And it's cool. And he has two of them, one in Bluefield and one in Princeton. So while I normally would not go a half a block out of my way to eat at Dairy Queen, I mean, I rank the modern Dairy Queen at the bottom of the fast food. It's right down there. But this one is different, and people come from all over town and eat there because he still has homemade stuff that he's got the old sign, the old brick building. Literally, it's really cool. Kind of an institution there. And the car wash is next door to that. So when I leave, I always see it. But I noticed they redid their signs, and I thought, that'd be a fun picture for something. Then I occurred to do it with this live. Colleen Tebow. Colleen, how's it going? Are you shuffling stuff around? I saw the short with, the stuff loaded up and all of that, and the tent and Jack Stan Cinderblock says we need to do a collaboration video eventually. Do a collaboration video now. Rich GT350R says me, Wilburn, and Chad. There is Smoke Wrench. Smoke Wrench, Sean. You bottle rocket like trajectory up to 475. Now you're just hanging there. But I'll tell you what, I would like to go live with you and grab the rest of those on a live. Let me know if you'd like to do that. I think we could do that any time of day. And I'll tell you why. It's because Smoke Wrench Garage is legit. He's got a cool channel. He's a cool guy. He's just one of these guys that's, I think he's really underrated. A lot of people are like, oh, wow, that channel's cool. I've never heard of it. I think he's one of those. I think he would really take off if we did a live for him. So, Sean, let me know if you want to do that. I'd like to have you on. Buck does it, and Thumper, the sweaty fat guy. How's it going? Man, speaking of that, I was working in a house today. Oh, it was so hot in there. So hot in there. I'll show y'all what I'm doing. So I'm working on this old house that's just become the bane of my existence. And I had these contractors in there because I was kind of pressured into using them. And you can see the notches in the middle of those studs. They cut the studs in my wall between one bedroom and one of the bathrooms The one on the right-hand side there is about 90% cut in two, and the one on the left is about 75% cut in two. And their solution was to smack a nail guard over that. And I said, no. And they were going to run the cable to this sub panel through that, put a nail guard over it, and call it good. Well, no, I don't do work like that. So anyway, I had to get them out of there, and I did. And we cut the wall out today, trimmed it really nicely, sistered on those boards right there, made it good and strong again, clamped it, deck screws, the whole deal, you know. And now I'm going to move that wire up through, right through the bottom here, and it'll go up to the sub panel and in the back like it should. And the sub panel has already been moved. They were going to put it right in the middle of the wall. It was a real mess. So anyway, I'm spending more time fixing this mess than they spent making it. But this is the kind of stuff I'm dealing with. So anyway, this will be closed up here in a day or two, and then I'll move on. And it's taking shape pretty nicely. But that's the kind of stuff. Man, it's hot in that house. Oh, and this too. I'll show you all this too. This is wild. So same people made this mess. And I show you these because people in here generally are really mechanically inclined, and even if you don't work on houses, you can appreciate this kind of work. So this is what they did for my sewer line. Butchered the joists and then put these collars on them with a couple of nails. And I'm like, no, none of that's going to work. So I pried all that garbage off of there and took some 1/8-inch steel plates, the height of the joists, and I'm bolting them, but then I'm going to weld a little 1/8-inch strip on the bottom. And then across the top, where you see that board across the top, it's kind of on each side, I'm going to put in a piece of angle iron to make the floor go flush, and then tack weld that to the plate. And then I'll have a really nice flat floor and a joist that won't break, even though there's less than 1 inch holding those joists. So anyway, that's the solution there. And it's hard. It's much harder going behind somebody that does work like this than doing it yourself. But there were reasons why I couldn't simply just do it. And anyway, I am so looking forward to getting that monkey off my back so I can do some more car stuff. Ron English, how do you? Yes, John, we all have a place here. Yeah. Glad you're here, Ron. There's 6% recycled in the house. I like the culture of people who greet each other and are friendly. It's just so nice. I used to make it a point, and I was real different in that. Nobody else was doing that, spending like a full 5 minutes trying to greet every single person at the beginning of a live. But now you all do it yourselves, and it's so cool to me. I like that. That's the difference between a bunch of viewers and a community. See, on other lives, it's I'm not singling anybody out, but there's lots of live streams where you'll see someone there and they ignore the chat, and the chat kind of becomes its own. It's very disconnected. And here, there's 43, 4 or 5 people watching right now. That number's flickering. But I'm just one of the 43, 4 or 5 hanging out with you guys. Yeah, Dakota may be in here. He usually swings by. Lars is starting a thing. It started the flat tire note after the burnout contest. It's funny you say that the guy who won the burnout contest, William, Charger 383 Mopar, his tire, he pushed it to the limit, and the tire was going flat as he drove out. It literally was holding air when he finished his burnout, wire hanging out everywhere. I don't know how he didn't blow it, but then driving out of there, the tire got lower and lower and got flat as soon as he left the pit. It's got to be the gnarliest burnout that didn't blow a tire. Hey, Cove, that Dairy Queen sounds cool. Yeah, it is. It's neat. It's that whole town is different. It's just different like that. It's a town that was built when the railroad came through because of all the coal that's there. See, was the biggest town where all the coal fields of West Virginia came to get on the railroad, and so it used to be a town full of millionaires and industry, and it's just so hard to imagine that 100 years later, because now it's just most of it's just abandoned and such. But it would be, if I could go back in time, I would go back in time right there. It'd be fascinating. Yeah, NSB says Dairy Queen and New Smyrna is the same way, same families, 53. Exactly. There's very few of those out there. There's a few of them scattered around the world, and apparently you have one. We have one. There's not one in this town, but there's one in the town where I'm from. Cope is in the house. How's it going? Cope just coming off of a week of rest and relaxation and fun debauchery at the lake. Glad you could join us. Andrew Nelson is here. What's happening? Andrew Nelson, if you just got here, you missed the pictures of the home construction nightmare I'm remedying. That's the kind of thing that a guy who's so conscientious of his work like Andrew Nelson, I can just imagine him walking through that house in horror looking at some of this stuff. But Andrew, I'm going to be welding plates around floor joists because there really is no other way to fix them. Between the pipe and the ceiling height and the floor height, there's nowhere to go with wood, so I'm using metal. Turbo Tom, glad you're here, man. Turbo Tom's an interesting guy. I like seeing him on live streams, professional mechanic, and he's interesting. I like it. Glad you're in here to chat. Thumper says, one of my trucks blew up today. Okay. Do tell. Ron English is waving. When the engine goes, the truck become parts, and parts is parts. Okay. Cool. Say, Smoke Wrench is so busy, winning at the track. I get it, man. Totally understand. Let's work something out for, top of the week or something like that. Let's do it. Be a lot of fun. I got to meet Smoke Wrench at the Indy Swap Meet. I'd like to have him on. Danny Boyd says needs a sister brother. We can't do it here, so it's going to get steel. It's going to work. I like to repair stuff so that it's stronger than it was before. Right. Okay, Kim, I saw that, but I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure, so just ask a clarification. Yeah. And here's the thing. You guys know what it takes. You guys can do it. I just want to make sure that you get it. You understand what we're saying. Because certainly Kim's got the subscribers. And Buff is a bona fide part of that channel too. So, I mean, you got several good options there. The main thing is we just want to see both you guys in Sykeston. Because I think it's really cool to get to see everybody and everybody come in. I just think it's cool. Buffalo Brian is here. Glad you could join us, Buffalo Brian. It's always fun when you get around all of the English brothers. They feed off of one another. 38 POS Racing. Community's so much fun. Dean says, can I join Buffdale UFOs channel? Okay. Thumper says the silver crew cab is what he blew the engine up in. Yeah, I'll tell you guys, check out Buffdale Campo's channel. Usually he comments in here, and he, I known Buff for a few years, and he's a cool guy. He is a really neat guy. He's not boastful or anything, so you wouldn't know that. He's got experience working on aircraft and radiator shop. The guy had a 327 with a dual quad, 2.4 327 in a Mercury Cougar. He's an interesting guy, done a lot of interesting things. Check out his channel. We have both extremes all over YouTube. We have people who are super accomplished and too quiet for you to know about it, and a whole lot more of the opposite. But Buff is definitely an interesting guy, knows a lot of stuff. Lambert says, I like these guys mostly. Yeah, that works. Dust Devil Garage is here. How's it going, Brian? I think it's just kind of phantom, but I almost feel like I'm still itching from the insulation that was in that house. I was working the room where I fixing the studs where the wall was cut apart. For whatever reason, that room wound up getting designated as the put extra insulation here room. And it's upstairs. It's just burning hot, but I will not miss getting the upstairs done. I got 2 rooms that need some drywall attention. One of them got almost done today. The other will get done, and I'll be very glad to move down 1 floor to the only moderately roasting part of the house. Patrick, yeah, I get it. I don't get it. I like to do work that'll last long after I am. I want to be somebody else's problem, but some people. Oh, well, I'll just say a lot. Some of the stuff, the original stuff, was my grandfather's. But he did some of it. But I don't mind picking on, and I'm not even naming them, but I don't mind picking on the professionals who did this work and stamped their name on it and said that was okay. But this is just kind of funny. So when my grandfather didn't have enough cord on the refrigerator to get it where he wanted in the kitchen, he thought this was just totally cool. He takes a piece of 212 and just runs it. And there we go, right? So I fixed that last night and stocked up the refrigerator for the folks helping us do drywall. And why not? I saw 2 Hacks Jeff sneaking in here. Glad you're here, Mr. Jeff. Wow, Andrew Nelson says, we got to see all kinds of home repair horror when we redid Calvin's house. Built in 1888. It had many sins inflicted upon it. I bet. Well, one of the things we're running into with this house, it's plaster. And, I mean, some places, like one place on the wall today, it's 3/4 of an inch thick. And then a few feet below it, it's 2. It's not 2. It's 1 inch thick. Well, that's a 1/4 inch of difference now. You can't see it, but you sure can when you go to repair it. It's just not easy. We've got some long sanding blocks, and we're making it happen. I'll tell you, I'm reminded why I hate Phillips head screws for a house, because they strip out. So I actually had my choice between trying to use a half stripped out Phillips head bit and actually driving a few miles down to the Lowe's to pick up some Torx head deck screws. And I said, you know what? I'm just not going to inflict this on myself. And I went down and got a box of number 10 T25 Torx head screws, and they were smooth sailing. Dr. Go. I like that name. A lot of you guys have neat usernames. That one is particularly fun. You guys know what my favorites are, and that's one of them. Dr. Go. I always think of Gene Simmons. I can see him singing that. Yes, B said, you see the video Jeff posted about all the smoke? I mean, my favorite video Jeff posted about smoke was when he did that, who knows how long burnout in his Thunderbird, the one that finished off the transmission in 54 miles. That's my favorite video about Jeff put up about smoke. Looking forward to watching Jeff throw rolls again. There's going to be some fun stuff about the roll throwing coming up. We'll talk about that here pretty soon. And there's another of my favorite usernames. Raining Slant 6 with a chance of cannonballs. That's a great name. Oh man, Raining Slant 6. I'm fixing some botched repair work, and I'll show it again because I know people come in here, come and go. But these are these are professional plumbers and electricians, by the way. And I'm fixing this mess. You can't really see much detail right there, but I'm fixing that mess right now. That one floor joist in the foreground has, I would venture to say, about a half an inch is all that's together. So I'm having to, there's nowhere to put a board to reinforce it. I mean, they tried, but that stuff they scabbed on there's not going to really do anything. So I'm putting in steel plates, and then I'm going to go across the top with a piece of angle and tack weld it in, and then you'll have something that won't crush under pressure. And then I got a wall in the upstairs. Yeah, there's a good look at that. So see those cut, they had just cut through the drywall. I mean, look at that one in the back there. It's about 90% cut. And I asked him, I said, this is before they were gone. I had to get rid of them. But he said, yeah, we'll put a nail guard over that. It'll be just fine. I mean, and all of this was to run a wire they didn't need to run through there. We're running that wire to the back of the sub panel. You can see where I fixed the studs. That's what's up with that. But I would much rather be working on cars. And when I get this done, I got some cool car content I'll be bringing you guys. It'll be worth the wait. Yeah, Kim says if Buff doesn't get it, we'll still be it. That's the spirit. That's it. That's it. Kim, Buff has 10 subs. Was it 9? I saw Buff with 9. So I always make a note of how many subs someone has upon registration. I just wanted to make sure, The company I work for says make it 100-year fix. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would rather have the peace of mind knowing I'm never going to have to do that again. I reframed the entire back wall of this house. I mean, the entire back wall, from the windowsill on the first floor to the roof on the second, the header and everything. And that will be somebody else's problem. That will outlast, unless a tree falls on it or something like that, it's going to outlive me. That's what I should be doing right now, Kim, is mowing. I'll mow tomorrow. Right now, I've got 4 lawns I'm having to keep whacked down, and it's a job. Oh, and I put a new tube in my riding mower on the left rear tire, and it leaks. Really? I'm so careful with those things. Anyway, man, tubes are expensive. I haven't changed it. I did the cheap, sensible thing. I carry an air tank with me when I go take that thing out to mow, and I put a valve stem extension on it so that when the tube gets low, just sitting there during the week and I forget about it, that it can't go falling back down in the wheel. Blue Collar Performance says this community always surprises me with their backgrounds. Indeed. Indeed. Colleen says, my cell signal is 1%. I can read the chat, but John keeps freezing. I'm not freezing on my screen, but it doesn't mean I'm not on somebody else's. That's okay. I'm nothing to look at. I mean, the chat is what makes it interesting. Ron English says, I'm a great spectator. Awesome. There's actually something to that, Ron. I know people who admittedly are terrible spectators, and they'll say that I'm an awful spectator. If they're not participating, they can't do it. I can spectate if I need to spectate. I can cheer people on. I mean, if you think about it, that's what the No Name Nationals I'm doing. I'm doing this to get to be a spectator. In a way, get to watch a little bit from the tower when it's too much going on for me to not be up there. Paused for a bit when I was paying my tabs. Had to skip forward to get caught up. Not sure what you're talking about, Jack Stands Cinder Blocks, but glad you got your tab taken care of. Ron English says exhaust fans upstairs when you finally get to work downstairs. Yeah, part of the problem is that there are no screens hardly in this house anywhere, so you can't get a breeze going through it. Oh, it was really easy when the back wall was out of the house. You had a breeze, just go, you leave the front door open, it was easy, but now the house is really closed in tight. No, not so much. Yeah, Buffalo Brian. Buffalo Brian is a demolition derby guy. So you can see some of that, I believe, on the One-Eyed Cat channel. There's video of him. He won a derby in a white Dodge Caravan. Yeah, most of the old parts, those guys are professionals in name only. Their work says otherwise. All a professional is somebody who gets paid for their work. That's all it is. You can be terrible at your job as long as you're good enough to keep convincing people they should pay you and be a professional. But are you a master? Are you an expert? These are different things. Wait, can you wire a house with extension cords? Well, sort of. Nah, this one, we're getting it there. We're getting it there. It's just such a job. And all the outlets were just put in just however they took them out of the package. Some of them upright, with the ground hole below. Some of them with the ground hole above. I just can't stand it. Oh, and even a mixture of small and large, like the high amp and the lower amp light switches. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. There's Buffdale Campo. Plaster and lath construction, yes. This one, unfortunately, had some things that caused some damage to it. But we're trying to repair it the best we can. See, it's a shame because I can get the automotive trolls out to tell me I don't know what I'm doing easy. It will be harder for me to get the this old house trolls to come out and tell me I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Dr. Go got some bloody elbows from rough plaster. Yeah, you could. He raced snowmobiles, Dr. Go did. That's cool. The surgeon of speed. Air quotes professional. Really, though, Thumper, that's all it means. The only thing you have to be good at is to continue to get people to pay you. You don't have to be your work quality. There's really nothing inherent in there. No, don't notch the stud cut. It's a disaster. I put boards on two sides of one on the other because of where the shower goes up, and I clamped it and put deck screws in. It's good and strong now, but I don't get why anybody was thinking in the first place to do that. Busted Radio Garage says hello all. Glad you're in here. Busted Radio, how much more has Unfinished Project 1 this week? Ron says that Buffalo Brian doesn't know about the hot bun throws at Lambert's. Well, let me tell you, Buffalo Brian. Lambert's restaurant, their website is throwedrolls.com. And not thrown, it's throwed with a D, because apparently that's how somebody said it 81 years ago when Lambert's opened. Anyway, they're famous for taking a roll and throwing it across the restaurant, and you'll see that the whole time you're there. And Dr. Art, and I'm going to talk to the third generation Lambert here pretty soon. Dr. Art wants to put a $100 bounty on somebody to catch a roll in his mouth. And I asked Dr. Art if I could enter Jethro, my pit bull, because I think he could win that one. Hammer Wrench said, that's exactly how I fixed it. That's what I did. There I could do it. I sure did. They should have auger drilled the holes. They should have never been in the house. Oh, wow. So Andrew Nelson sent me this. I'll just show you guys a picture. He says he's starting to get back in the shop. I figure this is okay to show. I always like to ask. But those guys do some really high quality fabrication work. Look at that. I do not want to know what it costs to do a set of headers like that now, but that is pretty incredible. This is what Buffalo Brian's son is running. So there you go. Yeah, it's that awful glare. Oh, I get it. Okay, hang on. It's off that other side. Okay, anyway. Why is that thing? Oh, I know what it is. I knocked it off earlier. Hey, that's a little better. Now that is a really compact trunk on that car. I'd venture to say that you can't get anything in that trunk anymore. Max Wage Dick Dasterly's asking an interesting question here. Anyone have oil pressure drop with break-in oil after 30 minutes or so? Race Oil fixed it. I don't know. That's weird. It almost sounds to me like, man, that almost makes it sound like a bypass oil filter. It's the first thing popped in my head. I had to think that through. Most of the old parts and rust, they would not be getting paid with crap work like that. Man, it's a long story over there. Jack Stands the Cinder Blocks is finishing the firewall on his truck so he can get the engine. He's had it mocked up twice. Yeah, great. Sounds good. Turbo Tom says, what is his channel name? I'll tell you. So if you're asking about the demo derby car, Buffalo Brian in the comments here, that's his son. I don't know that he has a channel. If he does, let me know. Danny Boy says, I do 2 lawns for me and 7 for my landlord. Ooh. Buff says, mower tires seem to be unreliable. I've had really good luck with them. This is probably the worst one I've ever had to be a repeat offender. And I've never used slime in my life, and I really am not crazy about the idea of putting it in a tube. I guess what I need to do is bite the bullet, take this new tube back out, figure out why it's leaking. Dr. Ghost said my live show caught his eye. Well, cool, man. I'm glad you're here hanging out. We got some pretty good guests coming up, too. I have guests sporadically on here, although this spring and summer, we're working on the house and back and forth. Like I just got back here an hour before this live. So I've not had as much time to prepare and such for guests. I'm going to be going back to guests. You know, we had Bondo Billy on here recently, and we've had Professor P, Shane Polito on here recently, and we've had some different guests. But and I have more guests in the pipe that you're really going to like. But yeah, I've been Freestyle Friday a lot this summer because, you know, people got different things they're doing. Now, the viewer numbers usually go well up in the winter, and I usually do more guests, you know, when it's not the middle of summer when people have so many events planned. The dead of winter is actually a great time to have your guests on. That's when people, I mean, Friday evening, people don't want to be outside when it's 20 degrees, snowy. Yeah, Max Wage, Dick Dasher says, I hate spectating. I'll tell you what, if you are going to spectate, Sykeston's the police to do it. It's a blast. Yeah, Buff said he was a spectator last year and it was fun. It is. It's a blast. Really, it is. See, all of these guys whose channels you see on YouTube, you see them in person, it's great. Buffalo Brian, it's the throwed roll is what they call it. Yeah, you'll experience it. Raining Slant 6 with a chance at Cannonball says they're only supposed to drill on board center line, never notch. Well, yeah, I know. Yeah, there's absolutely no strength in those, and it's not like it's a truss ceiling or anything either. It's a rafter, so there's no strength up there. So I said, I need to get this fixed before there's snow piled up on that roof. So I did, but it's just irritating to me that anybody would do that. Yeah, so the one-eyed cat Don there saying 97 Grand Caravan. They drove it for 14 years till it was rusted out, and then Buffalo Brian, his brother, finished it off in demo derby and won with it. So you can see that on the One-Eyed Cat channel. Professionals built the Titanic and the Titan sub. Well, no, professionals built the Titanic. The Titan sub, he was getting paid for the voyages on it, but he had yet to make any money. I think he said he spent $1 million per voyage on fuel. So even at $250,000 a seat, he wasn't coming out. That's I read that and it just sounds crazy. Jack Stan Cinderblock says, I'm not a mechanic, but I pretend to be one on YouTube. There's a lot of people pretend to be one on YouTube. J-Bo's in the house. Rabbit Transit J is here. Welcome, gentlemen. Glad you're here. Dean says, I haven't used violence yet. Well, let me tell you, violence is the tool of people who are not good people. Force is the tool of good people. Police use force. Criminals use violence. Where is the unfinished project? I don't know. That's a great question. If I had to take a guess, I would say there's an auction somewhere. Danny Boyd's a snowmobile demo derby. Oh my goodness. Yeah, 38 POS Racing says his house is plaster over something he's never seen. Yeah, this house has boards with the plaster, but it's just out of my wheelhouse. We're just doing our best with it. Where are they? Unfinished project. Like, that's right. I haven't seen Blake either. But again, it's a Friday evening and it's nice and people are got things and doing stuff, and that's totally okay. Busted Radio says he hasn't won anything yet, but he's trying it. The Unfinished project wins a lot. He's dedicated. Wow, Dr. Ghost says he saw some of the boys who has a tattoo of Grandpa on his cook hat throwing rolls at Lambert's. Yeah. Well, right, Dean, but I'm telling you. So I've had a lot of training in use of force with firearms and use of force in general, and that's pretty seasoned definition there. So, I mean, I know that we sometimes learn terms and definitions from the media, but I'm one of these person that really appreciates the meaning of words, like how problem somehow was replaced with the word issue. They do not mean the same thing. Uh, Epic, the word epic to just mean anything. Epic's like a tear in the veil of time and space, and it's meant to be something really grand. And they use epic for everything now. So I'm a person that cares about the meaning of words, and I've heard many times that that's the difference between force and violence. Ralph Nader is still alive. Is he really? Blue Collar Performance is the fact he's alive to build headers. I'm assuming he's talking about Andrew Nelson. Says more about his abilities than the headers. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it really does. They build a safe car. Those guys they're very talented and very conscientious. Buffalo Brian says his son doesn't have a channel, not yet anyway. Well, Buffalo Brian, if he has a channel, he has 500 subs and does what he needs to do to pass tech, you can take a demo derby car down the track at Sykeston. You sure can. You can't go crashing into other cars when you do it, but you can take a car down the track. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says his oil pressure went from 60 pounds to 25 at 2,000. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly, what were your rod bearing or main bearing clearances? Because I have seen cars that have way too much clearance and they'll be fine initially, and when it heats up, the pressure drops off. Twisted Mopar Dennis is here. Twisted Mopar, we're ready for you. You're sitting at that plateau right at the halfway mark. We're waiting for you to take another jump. Buffalo Brian says the trunk is now in the back seat of that Grand Prix. The car's running 6 different derbies. Wow. Grand Prix's been in 6 derbies. Man. It's almost like a car's been in 6 derbies. Just get to retire and live a cushy life or something. But that said, it's a demo derby car, so it kind of deserves a Viking funeral of some kind where you pack it full of tannerite or something. Raining Slant 6 with a chance of cannonball says if you have to get a bundle of cables through a board, drill 2 or 3 spots. I agree with all of that. I'm just saying I had nothing to do with this. The repairs we made are very strong. But yes, I agree with you. Yep, that's definitely the way to do it. But you have to be conscientious to do things like that. There's Blake. See, mentioned Blake, and he showed up. Rescued and Restored Garages. It'll be awesome to start to meet people. I agree. It's wonderful. The No Name Nationals is the time that we all get to meet up in person. It's great. Now, that said, if you want to meet, say, Twisted Mopar Garage, I'm sure you can meet up with he and Dust Devil Brian at their track there in Illinois. And if you want to meet up with the heathens of Bad Tree Productions, I mean, you can catch him at Iowa and some of these things that they do. If you want to meet up with some of these people, there's places you catch them, but the place to catch all of us is Sykeston. Rockstar Blake's greeting everybody. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says his subs are climbing 123. Let me tell you, your first 123 take a whole lot more time to get than your last 123 on that quest to 500. Ron English learning proper names associated channel. Well, yeah, you will. You'll recognize them. Auto Salvage Outlaw shares his name with one of our presidents of the United States. One-Eyed Cat says I'm 10 minutes behind. Yeah, I might be. I can kind of tell because I'm seeing replies. Kind of a peeve of mine, and here I am doing it. I'll catch up. 38 POS Racing is trying to put side trim back on the 59. Wow. To me, it's like a one-way street. It's either you take it off and leave it off, or it's already on there. That's just me. Max Wedge got 25 subs in 28 days. No, but that's pretty good. You're moving in the right direction. Just keep at it. What'll happen is you'll keep at it, and then you'll have an old short that's been laying out there hit, and boom, it'll take off. You'll wake up with 50 more subs overnight on one video, and you'll even know what it was. That happened for Dakota. It happened for Hunter. It's happened for several people. It's happened for Blue Collar Performance. Keep putting out content. You never know what crazy old video from 3 months ago will just start getting views out of nowhere. So Buddy's 360 from a speed shop has 11,000 in the engine. I have seen speed shops that do great work, and I've seen speed shops that have no idea what they're doing. It's very unfortunate that people think that if a place is a machine shop, of course, that's the standard of work, and that's not true. There are machinists who are very good. There are machinists who are terrible, and worse yet, there are people who are really good machinists that aren't good engine builders. Like they might know how to, bore this or grind this straight with no taper, et cetera, and have no idea, how to actually make an engine make power, what parts go together, and this kind of thing. So I have no idea, who or what you're talking about, but I'm saying there's a lot of variation out there. Twisted Mopar says 75 days plus, 75 days, 3 hours and 7 minutes. You got that right. Speaking of machine shop, there's Ed's machine. Ed is a very competent machinist. Ed, I've been out in the garage. I moved the old DeSoto Hemi. I moved it and was doing some parts inventory. I'm missing one. I didn't take this apart. Missing one rod bolt, and I'm missing, I believe, an exhaust valve. That's all it's actually missing. And I never got an intake, but I do have a new old stock Edelbrock 2.4 intake for the tall deck Dodge Hemi, and it fits beautifully. Just needs to have the bolt holes re-drilled and a little bit of port match done. Dust Devil says it's the weekend for the big Mopar show for St. Louis. Cool. This is the weekend for me to work in the house. Although I got to say, I was looking around in there today while I was working thinking, man, I'm so glad that job's done. I'll do that again. I'm going to get there. I was telling Professor P, because I was a guest on the Wednesday night Tech Talk Live. I fill in for Dallas sporadically, depending on what his schedule is. And I said, maybe I'll do a live walking around in there. It's kind of interesting, actually. And my grandpa loved old cars. So his room is still decorated with all kinds of pictures, but his stuff is like from the 20s and 30s. It's really neat. He's one of these classy guys that dressed real nice. He liked all the cars from the 30s that looked nice and all that, which I really admire. I think is great. He was a Packard guy. Packard was his make and model he liked. In modern cars, which for him was like a car from the 60s, he liked Cadillacs. But in his classic cars, which for him was like a car from the 30s, it was Packard. Oh, which reminds me, this is I found this. This had fallen behind a dresser, and was in that because this is the hat he wore all the time. He was just all about it. And if that looks like an old guy car show hat, that's because that's exactly what that was. You wore that all the time. 73 days for us. Yeah, it doesn't include any of your travel time. Your travel time comes right off of that. Your testing time comes off of that. I mean, this is not how much time you have to build a car necessarily. Nah, Ron, we'll catch up. We'll just go ahead and catch. I don't let myself lag behind, but I don't know. Today it's just whatever. Why not? How's that? Now I'm caught up. Packard was high end in the day. Yes. I actually trimmed the tree line and found a straight 6 from a Packard in the tree line. It's still sitting there. And I know where the car is that it came out of. The car is in Tennessee. But I think that engine is probably not restorable, but I need to talk with that guy and if he wants the original VIN number engine with the car. But I have a feeling that, he wouldn't care. Somebody just wind up throwing that thing away. It can just stay right there in the tree line. It looks great. Ed's machine needs to live in all 50 states to make us happy. Boy, wouldn't that be an interesting life for Ed? Oh my, Packard spark plug wires. Yep. I was thinking of those when I said that. Raining slant 6 with a chance of cannonballs is talking about the stresses on beams, loaded in compression and tension. That's why I'm using steel plates for that beam. Because the strut across the top is going to be loaded in compression. That's why I'm using a piece of angle iron. The angle iron is going to have 2 functions. It's going to give strength and compression where the notched wood would not, and it's going to make a really nice flat level surface to get the floor perfect up above it. Rescued and Restored needs to find 2 403 Oldsmobile engines. Cool. Find them. That's neat. Captain Packard from Star Trek. He would have been cooler. See, I kind of liked being behind. It made it flow a little better for me. But I was still catching up anyway. He's got 2 79 Trans Ams. Needs the Oldsmobile engines for the Trans Ams. Okay, you have a pair of 79 Trans Ams? I know somebody that has a 79 Trans Am. It's got a 6.6 Pontiac in it, I believe. Coolness on the Packard story. He had a lot of Packard stories, actually. See, Buff says, sounds like aircraft spars. Yeah, well. Dean Stevenson, what's 328 feet amongst friends? 328 feet sounds like a pretty good distance between houses to me. Russell from Outfits says, just registered for No Name Nationals 2023. Let me check my email. And yes, I can confirm. Russell is registered. And I got to do some housekeeping here. I always like to check and see because it's not a link. Russell's like, well, he knows what my channel is. But when you put a link to your channel, it lets me do one click to see how many subscribers you have at the time of registration. And that's a stat that I was only keeping for the No Name 500 guys. But now I keep it on all channels because it shows me how much channels are growing from year to year. There we go. So welcome back aboard, Russell. Not that we knew you were coming anyway. I see Clint's Street Machine sneaked in here. Glad you're here, Clint. Just a second, guys. Tony's Hot Rod Garage is here. What's going on, man? Good to see you. I am right now. Clint, would you like to join me? I've never had Clint on a live. Actually, I've had Clint on one live one time. I did have Clint on one live one time, which was fun. One-Eyed Cat, I've got some things in the hopper. I'll be talking about them soon. I like to wait until I's are dotted and T's are crossed. There's Dakota's timeout. So I was asked if Dakota and Blake were here, and both have stopped by. Dakota and Hunter are our two newest who have crested 500 subscribers. They are in. They've both punched their tickets. So the Dakota's timeout and Sand Mountain Ballistics are both in. So if you want to see the battle of the brothers in Sykeston, looks like it's going down. There's Sherry Marie. How's it going? Glad you could stop by. Stuff with Cletus. What's happening, Cletus? Cletus' son is the channel Nadertron's World, and he's running third in the No Name 500. Nadertron, Nate, is making it happen. He's just been hammering away and hammering away, and Testa's running fourth. Testa's like right on that edge. He's sitting there. One video is all it's going to take, and Testa can, boom, he can get it. Dakota says Hunter's car won't put up much of a fight. Dakota is working on his secret weapon right now. Oh, boy. Cletus says he's so ready for the No Name Nationals. Cletus, you were bringing the LSV, the LS-powered Volvo wagon? Danny Boyd says he rode a submarine at Disney World in 70 or 71. Well, that's cool. Puff said didn't know Kim was going to register him and light a fire under him. Well, Buff, if there's somebody who can do it, it's you. So. Dakota says, I won't keep it a secret. It's an 850 Holly double pumper. Right on. Tony's Hot Rod Garage says, I hate drywall. Hear, hear. Drywall is something I just, ugh. It's like a necessary evil. He says, the Volvo's coming just for people to see, not running it. Are you driving it? Does it function? Does it street drive? Outfits has got to make some more work happen. I understand, ma'am. Dan says if you hate drywall, you'll really hate plaster. Yeah, I've seen enough plaster done to know it's awful. Hey, Testa, man, if you need some help, let me know. We can do this. I'm telling you, we can get your plan together to make that 500 happen. You're really close. I extend that to every one of you guys running in the No Name 500. You can all make your 500. Every one of you. Reach out to me, John at PrincetonDragway.com. My email's on my channel. Reach out. Happy to help you. Ah, man. He says it runs great, but a strut is broken on it. Okay, I get you. Oh, my. Smoke wrenches, I'm back. Somebody oiled the track and they finally called us to the lanes. Sometimes it happens. Rescued and restored garages. Oh, you were the guy that helps us get to 500. A lot of these guys can help you get to 500, but I'm happy to. And a lot of times I can, help people get a program together that helps make it happen. Now, Raining Slant 6, a chance cannonballs. I know you're fixing someone else's screw up, but if you only say don't do something, it doesn't make folks take notice till you explain why. Well, yeah, but I'm just kind of showing a little bit of what I'm doing. I'm not thinking much about. See, to me, the house stuff is just something that you get behind you. I don't invest as much in the why of it. But yeah, if anybody wants to know why we do this or that, I'm happy to tell you why I do. I might be wrong. I'm happy to tell you why I do it. Danny Boyd says, I've never needed help with a sub. I can eat 2-foot-long Subway subs. There's an episode of Family Guy that will make you wonder why you want to eat that much Subway sub bread. You might need a freeze plug afterward. Blue Collar Performance is wanting to sink a boat. Okay. Does anybody know what Smoke Wrench is running tonight? Let us know, Smoke Wrench. He's in here. Making his last time run. Catch y'all later. Well, cool. Smoke Wrench runs a dart sport. Mexican Spec just got in here. Just noticed you in here. Auto Salvage Outlaws is suggesting everyone hit the like button. Okay. Ron's saying I'm our go-to guy. Oh, okay. I'm a lot of people's go-to guy, and for most people, that's great. Rescued and restored garages. I nailed the like. Congratulations. Everybody's greeting one another. Anybody going to Chrysler's at Carlisle next weekend? I've been 3 years in a row. I wasn't planning to go this year. I still thought about taking off for one day, but I don't know. Hey, Cove, what car are you planning to put your Hemi in? It's not been on the channel yet, but I do have it. And it is an A-body. Mexican Spec, how many channels came last year, not coming this year? Hardly any. The return rate is exceptional. Stuff with Cletus says, I came last year, can't wait to be there this year. That's the overwhelming sentiment. Unfinished project is in the house. Glad you're here, man. Unfinished project is trying to win a Bondo Billy contest. How's that going, Unfinished project? Pure Pontiac Garage says, hello, Understand project. Okay. That might work. Buffalo Brian says he gave up Carlisle this year to go to the No Name Nationals. I understand that. And we're going to do our best to put on an event that you will be glad you went there for. And Carlisle's great. I don't have anything with Carlisle, but I mean, at Carlisle, you're there, but the No Name Nationals, I mean, you guys are the stars. You are the show. Now we're missing First Responder Garage. He's somewhere. He's all right. Raining Slant 6, a chance of Cannonball says, if you ever take a good look at wood, grain flows along the length of the board. Yeah. As you approach knots, they start to converge. Yeah. Huh. Tony's Hot Rod Garage, I think, is talking about his startup on his 451 on the engine stand. It sounds very healthy. Looking forward to seeing that. Dean thought Unfinished project was flying a kite with his house key. Okay. Oh, wow. Testa's only 16 miles from Carlisle. Cool. That's a nice area. I got to say, that is a nice area. I'm not much for going north for anything, but I like that area. I hate having to go through 12 miles of Maryland to get to it, but it's a nice area. It really is. Mexican Specs is going to Pomona was great in the 80s. It wasn't far from where I was. Yeah, I've never been to Pomona. I actually took a firearm training class about 5 years ago or so in Azusa, okay, which is like the LA metro area, but it's northeast of LA. It wasn't all that far from Pomona, but I just never could get myself to get up there and go to it. No reason I really couldn't have. I didn't. Now, Thumper, by the way, we're talking about ethanol gas a little bit in the comments. Thumper knows a lot about ethanol gas. He said it's good on its own, but it's the additives they cause with it. Let me tell you, if you ever want to see a clinic on ethanol, I had a live stream with Thumper, the sweaty fat guy. When was that, Thumper? A year or two ago? And Thumper got all into the weeds about ethanol fuel, growing your own ethanol, how to tune with it, and all that. It was really interesting. So last year, yeah. Cool. Yeah, Mexican spec. I didn't get to see much of it. Literally, all I did was, as I went to class, I left from wherever this was in town, and as soon as you pull out, you're looking straight up a mountain, and it's wild because it's like you're driving on the flat and level. There's this big mountain right in front of you, really steep, and you go up in this canyon. It's like the San Gabriel Canyon or whatever. And you could hear eagles everywhere, and there was a range up in there, and trained with Ken Hackathorn and Larry Vickers, and that was the last class. I think that if it wasn't the last, it was one of the last 2 or 3 classes that Ken Hackathorn's ever taught. I think he's retired now. Unfinished project is asking Dan's learning curve. When can we expect a video introducing your W350? Cool. I'd like to see that. Thumper says, I keep losing fuel pumps to pump gas. Thumper has pictures of carburetors, with ethanol and tests over time and things like that. It was really interesting. Mexican Spec is telling Mex Wage Dick Dastardly, and still they are only charging 18,000 pesos for all the work and painting. Mexican Spec, about how many American US dollars is 18,000 pesos? If you know. Buffalo Brian's crashing out because 4 a.m. comes early. Well, thanks for joining us, man. Glad you could swing by. Ed says, I just have no reason to run it or need it. And that's cool. The thing about me that intrigues me with ethanol is being able to run a lot of compression with pump fuel, because you can get ethanol at the pumps with E85. And also the thing about ethanol is how practical it is to make if you ever needed an apocalypse fuel source. If you were already doing ethanol, you'd be way ahead of the game. $1,058 is 18,000. Wow. Okay. Wow. The Rat Rod 428 has 91 E10 in the tank. I was somewhere and got, or it was today. It was today or yesterday. I got 92 octane in Bluefield. It's a high altitude there. We have 93 here. It's weird. And Teen says, don't call me a dummy. Don't hang out with Fred Sanford. He might. Yeah, Tony's Hot Rod Garage says 91 is the best we can get at the pump here. Yeah, and some places are like that. It's just strange. Dan's learning curve. Did you all see that I lost oil pressure in my 58 Plymouth Suburban? Looks like the pump locked up and sheared the drive tab. Yikes. Did you catch it before it did any harm? I've seen that a few times. Execute S. Huh. Interesting. Now, Clint's asking Thumper, 104 octane boost, as he recalls, caused a red residue in the float bowls. I don't know what that is. Well, Dan, I hope you get it all squared away. I see Dean's got the red pen out doing grammar correction. I'll tell you, I have the red pen out everything I read. I just don't say anything about it. Wow, so Half-Wit Labs says I'm having one of those days. Just cleaned out 6 mouse houses and a carcass out of a 91 old OBS. What truck is that? They always use OBS with trucks. It's 91. Said it was a total turd wagon. Gotcha. The key is minimizing and centerlining the hole sizes on the beams. Yes, that's great. Thumper says, Dean, do you wear a stylish Hugo Boss designed uniform whilst correcting grammar? Love it. Danny Boy says grammar got run over by a reindeer. It's even better. Tony's Hot Rod Garage is mixing fuel. Apparently, that's the perils of Arizona. Clint says abandoned cars in Tennessee become wildlife habitats. Abandoned cars in Tennessee become human wildlife habitats. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly had a 318 oil pump lockup. Made it home 10 miles. Ugh. They're tough engines, but I wouldn't do that to one. Unfinished projects toying with the idea of a 6-pack hood on a W350. You practically put a tunnel ram on that without a scoop. The English clan is doing the 4-wheel jamboree. Well, that's great, man. Have fun. That sounds like a lot of fun. Thumper got 80 gallons of E85. Thumper, how much of your own fuel are you making these days? Unfinished project is at a tractor show, vintage truck horse pull. You're at that and you're on this live? That's dedication. Okay, so it's a Chevrolet. 305, 700 R4. Yeah. Yeah, Busted Radial's asking, wondering what unfinished project won today. Jeremy Finley. Jeremy, I was working on that house today, and I was working on the underside of that roof eave that you did, fixing the really janky electrical work those guys did. I'll show you. Since Jeremy is my roofer over there, and of the terrible contracting work I got done other places, Jeremy, on the other hand, he did the roof. And the roof is great. You guys have seen pictures of the roof. But I'm fixing this mess, which I would say Mr. Finley there will remember. So where they stuck that sub panel in the middle of the wall and cut the studs out and all that, that was what I did today, was fix that stuff. But the roof is great. I can recommend the part Jeremy did to the roof. It's architectural shingle. It's nice, good crew. They cleaned up as they went. Very good stuff. Speaking of janky electrical work, how about a wiring harness held together with other parts of the wiring harness? I have seen that. I've actually done that out in the field before because there's so much stuff in a wiring harness you don't use. Unfinished project says I drove my dart about 50 miles, 75 miles per hour, and entered it in a show. Never missed a beat. Cool. Yeah, great. That's great. I drove that Jeep of my dad's that had been sitting for 2 years. I drove it about 15 miles each way, 20 miles each way. No, it's more further than that. Then about 20, 25 miles each way to a show. It's sitting for 2 years and no problems. The left rear parking brake was dragging a little, but other than that, it was all right. Unfinished projects because you changed the transmission fluid. Wow, that'd be good. That'd be a good thing. Because you changed the ATF. I hate that automatic transmission fluid and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms share that. NSB says, I got in an argument with an electrician today because he didn't know the difference between single and three-phase power. He lied on his application for sure. You wouldn't believe how many machinists I've talked to who don't know the difference between tolerance and clearance. Kid you not. And I'll call one of them out, was the one Ari DeBernia had. Ari, Ari is a member of our community. We like him, Ari DeBernia. He took in good faith a crankshaft to a machinist that gave him 1/1000th of main bearing clearance because that was the tolerance on the spec. We're like, no, man, you're going to have a serious problem. That's no clearance at all. The guy really got a hold of the tolerance and thought that was the bearing clearance. Yeah, Thumper, tolerance is very different from clearance. No kidding. Buff said machinists have to know that. Competent ones do, yeah. I know another one. I won't say who he is. He's a nice guy, but he said, yeah, I look up the spec and it'll say the tolerance is this, but I think, well, it's got to be more than that. So I just kind of use my judgment. Literally what he told me. This guy turns crankshafts. Tony says, I want 3,000 in my mains. Yeah. Thumper said a machinist should know that. If they don't, they are not a machinist. Thumper, there's a difference between a machine operator and a machinist. I have seen a handful of guys who make a living running machines in a machine shop who actually don't know that. It seems unbelievable. And if you'd have told me that when I ran into the third or fourth or fifth one, I'm like, this is unbelievable. Because I hear a lot of people will use the terms interchangeably, but they're not machinists and they just don't know that they're not synonymous with one another. But to actually have full time, gainfully employed for a living machine operators in a machine shop say that, it shocked me. It shocked, well, the first time it shocked me. The second or third, I just was really like, wow, this is unreal. Tony's Hot Rod Garage is a little loose and nobody will ever know. Too tight and everyone will know. Yeah. And when Ari took that crankshaft back to that shop, the guy said, "Oh, you want diesel clearances or diesel tolerances or something." Like, how ridiculous. Dust Devil says, I started out as an operator 27 years ago. Dust Devil does it for a living, but Dust Devil knows the difference. I will say that most of the people in this chat overwhelmingly are a much higher level of competence than what you see a lot of other places. Yeah, Unfinished Project said it'll self-clearance. It can self-clearance itself to zero if it welds itself. Thumper says, avoid that guy like his name is Bruce Fulker. I don't know who you're talking about, but Max Wedge says, I worked for a machine shop and not one machinist working there. See, you know what I'm talking about. Just comes with the territory. Well, Thumper's putting in his two cents about a guy named Fulper in the Pontiac world. Don't know him. But anyway, that's what Thumper says to say. Dust Devil said, even as an operator, I learned to read blueprints and terminology. Had to learn shop math very quickly. Oh, yes, math is very important. "38 POS Racing says competence as long as you don't do body work with JB Weld. I keep waiting for the video on grinding and shaping that. I'm so excited to see it. That stuff, it's thick enough. That stuff is so hard that you might literally get through the metal beside it in some place. Execute S. I love listening to your voice in stereo, John Wilbur. No, nobody should like listening to my voice in stereo. That's twisted. Wendy English just got home from work. We're glad that you got home from work, Wendy. Unfinished Project's been using JB Weld quite a bit recently. Yeah, when Bondo Billy was on the live, Unfinished Project said, "Hey, would you use JB? Would you use JB Weld for body filler?" He's like, "No, why would you do that? That stuff's too hard to sand." And that was funny. We have some other professionals from different areas of the automotive culture coming on here pretty soon. It'll be good stuff. It'll be fun and interesting. Yeah, speaking of tolerances and clearances, how many of you have ever seen someone measure a rod journal with a 1-inch micrometer? Ever seen that? I haven't either. I was wanting to, but probably won't see video of that. Unfinished project says only 11 Saturdays until No Name Nationals of 2023. That is correct. Mexican Spec says, isn't JB Weld expensive to use as a body filler? Yes. If you go look at Unfinished Projects Community tab, you can actually see a cost comparison between JB Weld and Bondo and Spot and Glaze Putty. You can see that on Unfinished Projects Channel's Community tab. It really doesn't make any sense, but Pure Pontiac Garage has 3 question marks. Cool. Now, Raining Slant 6 with a chance of cannonballs is wanting a crown up on floor ceiling joists. Right. And not twisted. Ed's Machine says, John, why would you say that, a 0 to 1 micrometer? Because there is a YouTuber who's been senselessly fighting a connecting rod bearing problem on an engine, and 2 other YouTubers who say that our community is collectively a bunch of idiots and don't listen to them. One of them sent him a 1-inch micrometer for measuring his rod journals. So anyway, the guys who claim that we're not competent, that was their solution, sending him a 1-inch micrometer to measure his rod journals. So who knows? I just I don't know what to tell you. Rich GT350R says, what happened to the old Alumafill? What are you talking about? Like an aluminum, a filler rod? Or Ed's Machine. Oh, yeah, Ed. Ed, I'll send you the video. You'll love it. It's beyond belief. You know what? I actually sent that video to an engineer that we all know, and his reply was, this can't be real. This can't be real. Nobody could really. I'm like, yeah, this is real. This is real. Good luck getting it around the crank. Oh, Testa, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Testa tried to help. Says use plastic. Testa, we've all tried to say use plastic. Not hearing it. Not hearing it. House guests showed up to Clint's. Hey, man, y'all have fun. Thanks for joining us. It was a Bondo product, body filler from the early 80s. No, I don't know. I'm not a body guy, Rich GT350R. I'm not. I've heard of a lot of the products, but that's just one I don't remember. I've certainly not used. Already has a rod knock. Is it on that 250 Chevrolet or something? Ed's Machine. What I was going to suggest is if that 1-inch mic won't fit the rod journal, just heat it, and just heat it until it'll open up and get around. And then, how do you measure the bearing on the rod with it in the engine? That's another question. We'll never know the answer. It doesn't matter. Testa says, I know it's a train wreck. It's a train wreck this community could have so helped with. Won't hear it. So, oh well. Can't help everybody. Mexican Spec recommended Dari disconnect each plug wire to see which cylinder it is. Yeah. Yeah, that helps a lot because a rod knock definitely shows up more when you have the pressure on it of being fired upon on top of the piston. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says, Ed, the guy said he would do my heads, hadn't yet, glad I didn't take them off. I'm telling you, there is a lot of machine shop purgatory in this world. There is a lot of that. Didn't used to be quite so bad. Blake was sent some Vegemite to Duddy's by microwave. Yes. I remember that. BTP could have fixed it. BTP can fix a lot of things. Those are talented guys. Ed's saying you can use a dowel pin, like a 1/4 inch, and measure the wall thickness. Not sure. Not this. I'm not tracking you there, Ed. Yeah, I don't know what Vegemite smells like. I don't want to. Probably like an industrial product like glue or something. JB's finally home. Well, glad you're in. Tony's like 20 minutes alive and the PC wants to update. I hate that. That's happened to me before. Ed's saying Mike across the dowel pin and the bearing shell. You could. You I guess. Yeah, I see what you're saying. But I mean, we're talking about connecting rods up in the engine. I mean, man. Dean says it's nasty. I tell you, I'm taking your word for it. Thumper says Vegemite smells the same going in as coming out. I can totally believe that. Dean Stevens says anything that does not kill you makes you stronger. New Zealanders and Australians have no taste. Well, there's a lot of things in Australia and New Zealand that try to kill people. Lots of things. So I guess I can see that. They like to test fate daily with their diet. Ed's machine, I get what you're saying. Yeah, but I mean that ship has sailed so far beyond. Thumper Thumper says the fins is where he eats all kinds of crazy fish stuff. Okay. NSB says just give him a ruler and call it a day. Well, same guy that sent him the 1-inch mic sent him a vernier caliper. Ed, would you use a vernier caliper to measure bearing clearance? Just on your crank journal and call it a day? Steve Lato, I don't know what the question is, but Steve Lato is a smart guy. He's an attorney on YouTube. Talks about traffic cases and stuff. He's interesting. Covers some interesting topics. Indeed, he does. Ed said, if that's all I had, yeah, I know, but I mean, I would, if you're up in the engine, I'm thinking plastic gauge is probably your best bet because that's going to show you what your clearance is between your connecting rod with the cap bolted on and your journal. Lito's in Michigan. If I get jammed up, I'd have him. Yeah. Seems interesting. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says the machine shop where he worked had him do an in-frame and a dump truck. Yeah. I'm not into the in-frame thing. I get it. I get it, but it's not, It says I agree with the plastic cage. Yeah, yeah. If I was trying to troubleshoot up in the car with the engine in the car, that's what I would do. Actually, probably wouldn't even do that. Probably just pull it. And if said guy's watching, the answer he got a year ago is still the same correct answer now, and that is get a running 305 from the junkyard for a couple $100. Stick your valve covers and air filter on it, paint the thing orange, and put it in there. Then save your money up and actually do the 283 right. That was the right answer then, and it's still the right answer. And it's still the most cost effective because by the time you get done with all this other stuff, it's not going to work. You're in it for the same money, and I have nothing to show for it. You don't take my word for it. There's all kinds of extremely qualified people in the chat. Thumper says, I'm German, like very German. The only way I could be more German is if I had Reich in my name. I have about the most British name ever. Andy Wood and I were laughing that we have the most British names ever. Fazard noticed that. He was talking about that when we were both down there one time. But raining slant six with a chance of cannonballs. What if one of them has a perfect knot that I can knock out and use for a wire hole? How about that? Danny Boyd, 283 is cooler than a 305. A 305 that runs is better than a 283 that never will. So I get it. But take the 283 out, save up some money, and fix it. And Blue Collar says the best thing about junkyard motors is they're cheap. You don't have to care as much as something that's built. Correct. We are more German than current Germans in Germany. Yeah, I can see that. Technician Troy must be at 380. He says, I need 120 more. Technician Troy, you're going to get it. If you guys have not yet checked out Technician Troy's channel, please do. He's doing good stuff over there. Going to bring a little small, fast GM to Sykeston. The GMC Sonoma, I believe. A state record blue catfish was caught the other day. Was 122 pounds. Whoa. There we go. Raining slant six with a chance cannonball says, as long as it's along the beam's natural center line, it's a win-win. Well, there you go. You know what? I should do that. I should do that just on principle. Get a knot in a board that I can use just for running. Yeah, I should do that and trim it to get it where I want it on the length. There we go. That's a good idea. Ed says a 283 is a 3 and 3.875, what, 3 7/8 bore? Yeah, that sounds right. Most of the old parts and Russ's marketplace engines are great to get the car mobile and get things figured out. Yeah, I agree. That's a good idea. And what that does is it lets you get it in the car, get the car sorted out, your suspension, your brakes, and all that stuff while you build what you want to build for the engine. That's a good strategy. Highly recommend that. I have a bone stock, used, reliable, everything 318 sitting in my garage right now just for that purpose. If something needs an engine, it can just go in it and take care of that. I had two and I built one for someone else. Lambert says, my 326 is seriously bad. He's going to put a hurting on the Mopars. Well, rock on. We want to see it. Make it happen. NSB says, someone wake Thumper up. He's dreaming again. So we're going to see Lenco Dart versus whatever it is Thumper has. Is that going to happen? Lars, you should go see Technician Troy. He races. He runs his stuff. Hey, Tony, you know what? I know you go live at 10. If you are running overtime on getting your live set up, if you want, I'll stick around for a minute and then we'll just head over when you get running. Let me know. Cave Dave says, hey, John Wilburn, I'm looking for a 65 Hemi hood scoop for my Plymouth. Can you put the word out? Well, Cave Dave, you just did. Anyone know how to hook up Cave Dave with a 65 Hemi hood scoop for his Plymouth? Let me know. I'll get it to Cave Dave. Patrick says 326 must equal 455, but I'll still take that action. Mean Street Mopars having fun fabricating floors in the Diplomat. Great. Mean Street Mopar, I like that. I like the Diplomat thing. And if you want any help on a program to help get some subscribers for your channel and whatnot, get some more viewership, because you're doing neat stuff over there, reach out to me. You got my email. It's on my channel, john@PrincetonDragway.com. Reach out to me. Auto Salvage is saying, who bring the Hemi to No Name Nationals 23? Well, I'm sure plenty of Hemis will be there. Dean says, I love the 326. It's a great engine. Cool. The Pontiacs, though, there's not much on the outside to tell you which you have. So what is it, like 326 all the way up to 455? There's really not much on the outside to tell you. I don't know anything about them. I think they're neat, but Dust Devil's asking Tony if they're going to pull an all-nighter live. So Tony's Hot Rod Garage will be live right after this. That's a good show over there. A lot of fun. Apparently Dust Devil's going to be on with him. Tony, I know you said that you're working on getting your computer set up. You got a crash and whatnot. I'll just stick around live a few minutes until you let me know you got it running. Just let me know. Thumper wants to figure out if his car will hook. Well, Thumper, you've got 75 days, 2 hours, and 6.5 minutes to figure it out, my man. Minus your travel time. What's the third-gen Camaro equivalent in a Mopar? What makes you the baddest Pentastar in the trailer park? That's a great question, Patrick. That's a really good question. I'm going to say like a 4-door F-body. It's sorted. We'll be on time. Okay, good. Good deal. Thumper says a D100. It could be. A turbo Dodge Shadow? I don't know. Murata? Nah, Muratas are cool, man. Cordoba. You know, Cordoba would have been the answer for a lot of people at one time. I don't think as much anymore. Cordobas have really, really come around, especially ones with Corinthian leather. Omni without turbo? Yeah, maybe. Has to be 82 to 92. Yeah, I can see that. That was an interesting time. Cave Dave says I've booked a room at. I'll conjecture the rest of that's going to be for the No Name Nationals somewhere near Sikeston/Minor, Missouri. Cordovas were gone by the time the 82 Camaro came out. Right, but I don't know that it's necessarily has to be that year range. I think it's just what is the cool factor equivalent. I think that was more the way I read the question. I don't think necessarily a contemporary within the same year. Dean Stevenson says, I've heard Scott Speed Shop has entered his car under an Iranian no de plume Hashemi Mujahideen. Well, Dean, I can tell you he is not. Jed was one of the very first channels. He was in the first 10. He was in the people that were like midnight. He was in those people. He's registered under Scott Speed Shop. Thumper says, is it strange that 1990 feels like it was about 5 years to me? Not at all. Okay, Cave Davis saying, I haven't booked a room yet in Sikeston. Where would you suggest? I can tell you that the Best Western's okay. The Drury is very nice. The Pear Tree, we've had some people say stay away from the Super 8. And so right there in that area near Lambert's, there's lots of lodging choices. But the Drury and the Best Western, the Drury's definitely the nicest. That's where we put up Ron Ward and Deke Denny and those people. and Ron English is saying he'd have a better time camping at the track. That's what most, I bet you that there were more people camping than staying off site. So Cave Dave, don't underestimate that. A lot of people camp on the grounds. Blue collars is exactly something with performance potential, but bottom of the barrel. Right, precisely. It's exactly what we're talking about. If you were cross shopping an 82 Camaro, what did you look at the Chrysler dealers? What, an Aries, a K car? I don't know. Blue collars booked at the Pear Tree. Yeah, that's where Hoopty Mike stayed last year. He liked it. JB's camping, right? Dust Devil's camping. Dust Devil booked a room last year and wound up camping. So if it shapes up like it did last year, you've got different camps there. So we have Camp Dust Devil, which is at the back of the property near where you turn off and get your time slips, okay? Then you have my area up at the front with Ron Ward, and that's where the administrative people usually are up near the front because we got to do stuff up there. Then right down from us was Camp Bad Tree. So you had, Duddy and the Hippie and J-Bo and the Dodge Whisperer and Duddy and the whole crew there. Then in the middle, you had the trucks. So you had Perpetual Projects and Square Body and then Irish Outlaw Jay was near them and Buff was near them. So those folks were all kind of there together. And you had lots of camps, and it was interesting. It was a blast. You couldn't go wrong with any of them. Mix and mingle everywhere, but the different camps were neat. I was kind of hoping it would work that way with different neighborhoods within the pits, but they all got along good, and that's exactly how it worked out. Worked great. Yeah, Jay says absolutely camp at the track. Yeah. Yep. Thumper said Chrysler had no hot rods until the Challenger came out. What are you talking about? Are we talking about the new Challenger or the old Challenger? It's saying good night. Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, we are right at our time, and Tony's Hot Rod Garage is going live right now. He's going to have Dust Devil on as a guest, it looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and shut down here. Thank you guys for coming out. It's been a lot of fun. This has been a fun way to end the work week for me. Working on the old house, and, we get to get in here and then hang out with you guys. A lot of fun. Oh, look at this. Dust Devil's going to raid the Camp Bad Tree with water balloons. Oh, my. Whoa. Watch out for that. That promises to be fun. But thanks for coming out, guys. I will see you guys again next week, and perhaps on Wednesday with Tech Talk, depending on if I'm asked to be a guest and fill in for Dallas or not. But thank you guys for coming out. See you next week. Go over to Tony's Hot Rod Garage. He's going live now.